The last one we're going to do here is on page 49. Actually, we're going to do two more together. This is page 49. This is number 1, part of your homework. It's the key of E. I know that because it's 4 sharps, which is the key of E, and the first note is E, and the last note is E. So I fill in here that it's the key of E. And on a piece of scrap paper, I'm going to write the key signature of E. And then the 3 chords that I might need are the 1 chord, 1, 2, 3, 4, the 4 chord. Hope you're getting good at writing the 1, 4, and 5 in any given key, because that's really what you need for all these examples. And the 5 chord. So make sure you know what these notes are: E, G sharp, B, A, C sharp, and E, and B, D sharp, and F sharp. I've got to know these notes because I'm going to come over here and figure out what the chords should be. The first chord is an E. It's always a good idea to start with a 1 chord. It would be very odd if you didn't start with a 1 chord and even end with a 1 chord, if possible. Some of these phrases might end with something other than 1. You know, you could end on a 5. So I take that back, and we won't fill that one in yet. The next note is a G sharp, and notice the only chord with a G sharp is a 1 chord. So we're going to put the 1 chord here. It's always a good idea when you go to the next measure to actually change the harmony to a different harmony. And this is an A, and the only chord with an A is 4. And the only harmony with a C sharp is 4. And then we have an E. I'm sorry, a B. And the only chord with a B is either the 1 chord or the 5 chord. I'm going to go ahead, and because I'm looking ahead a little bit and thinking this would be a good place for a 1 chord. So I'm going to put the 5 chord here and then let it move because the measure line comes. I'd like to change the chord. And the B would fit in the 1 chord. And I can always write the same chord twice in a row within the measure. That's fine because it seems like it will fit. 1. And then I have a D sharp, which is the 5 chord. And then I end on the 1 chord. And you can probably see that this is going to end up being a perfect authentic cadence. Since at this point we're writing only in root position chords, I know that these two will be in root position. You're going to be putting the bass in those 2 chords in the bass part. Make sure you do that. And I see that the last note is an E, which is the root tone of the chord. So I know that must be perfect. Watch what I do here. I'm going to go ahead and just put in some of the bass notes. If that's a 1 chord, I could go across and put the bass notes in if I want. The 1 chord, and then a 1 chord again. The lowest note would have to be an E. And then the 4 chord, the lowest note would have to be an A. And then another A. Here's the 5 chord. The lowest note would have to be the B. Don't get fancy in the bass. Just put the root tones all the way across. Okay. This says it wants it in close position, which means the upper notes are as close as they possibly can be. All right. That actually makes my job easier. E, G sharp, and B are my 3 notes of the 1 chord. To make them as close as possible, it means that my alto will be the next closest note of those 3, which is a B. And my tenor will be the next closest note, which would be a G sharp. And I've got 2 E's. I'm supposed to write the chord again, but this time the melody moves up here. Now, I don't really have any rules for when the chord stays the same, do I? We learned rules for when we have root tone motion of the 5th or root tone motion of the 2nd. So really, if chords are the same, they're staying the same, you have 2 choices. You can either keep the spacing the same, or you can change the spacing. Now, in these examples that you have to do for this week, you don't have to make that decision because I've told you what to do with the spacing. So here, just keep close spacing. So there's the G sharp in the chord. The next note down would be E, Close spacing means keep them as close as possible. The next note down would be a B. So that's good. I've got two E's, a G sharp, and a B, and I've got them in close spacing. Keep the close spacing all the way till you get to here. Now I go from a 1 chord to a 4 chord, which is A, C sharp, E. Remember, you're going to try to keep a common tone because that is root tone motion by the fifth. The common tone, I hope you see it, is the E. Find where you put the E, not the bass note. That always just goes to the root tones, but this E, and put it in the same voice. And then move the other pitches as close as possible to complete the chord. Notice the note that I haven't written. Make sure you complete the chord. The note that I haven't written yet is C sharp. So put the C sharp here. Okay. And then I can continue. I've got a 4 chord followed by another 4 chord. Keeping it in close position means keep those pitches as close as possible. By the way, this is a little mistake. Sorry about that. These lines should be going up. Maybe I'll try to fix that in this edition. But change those stems if you would for me. And then here, that highest note is C sharp. This pitch should be A. That's as close as possible. And then the next closest note possible is E. And what I mean is I'm starting at the top and writing notes as close as possible because I'm staying in close position, at least up until there. So this really is the last one that I'm going to help you with, and this is page 50. And this one, you've got to complete this harmonization using the 1, the 4, and the 5 chord, and you're doing it in the key of F minor. So let's go ahead and write F minor. It's right there. 4 flats. And I've got my 1 chord. 1, 2, 3, 4. My 4 chord. And my 5 chord. And I'm going to raise my leading tone in my 5 chord. So this is F, A flat, and C. This is B flat, D flat, and F. And this is C, E, and G. The first thing we want to do here is just come up with a nice set of chords. So we're going to do that together. I'm not going to make you do that on your own. We're going to take a look at the melody notes and the notes of these 3 chords and make some decisions in terms of what would make good chords. The first one, always start with a 1 chord, as long as it fits. A flat certainly fits. Notice I'm going from a close to an open spacing. I'm going to stay on the same chord. That will make that a little easier. And then at this point, I've got a C. I could use another 1 chord, or I could move to the 5 chord, because that one also has a C, which is what I'm going to do. I'm looking ahead a little bit and seeing that here's the measure line. I'd like to switch to a different chord when I get to this other side of the measure line. And by putting a 5 chord here, it allows me to switch back to a 1 chord, because that also has a C. And I'll keep on the 1 chord, because the 1 chord also has an A flat. Here's the G. Only that one has a G, so that's a 5 chord. Back to the A flat, which only the 1 chord has. And I'll stay on the 1 chord. I think I'm ready to switch chords. It's the same pitch, so let's go ahead and find another chord. Notice that the 4 chord also has an F. And I like the idea of this chord moving to the E natural, which of course the E natural is in the 5 chord. Notice that this is a long note, so this is a cadence. What's the name of the cadence that ends on a 5 chord? Hopefully you remember that's a half cadence. 5 chords really want to go to 1 chords, so, and I notice that I can fit the 1 chord right here. 1. Matter of fact, I'm going to use the 1 chord for all of these. 1, 1, 1. Notice I'm changing the spacing. The D flat is in the 4 chord. And then I'm going to come back to a 1 chord. 1, 1. The G is in the 5 chord. And the E natural is also in the 5 chord. Now don't worry too much about it if you're not exactly sure why I'm making all of these choices of the chords, but I hope that kind of intuitively you see what I'm doing. I'm trying to make chord changes when I get into the new measure. I'm kind of anticipating how the voice leading will work. I'm trying to make nice cadences that are identifiable. This is the half cadence. I'll let you figure out what the name of that cadence is. And then you go ahead and you start to harmonize. So we have the 1 chord in close position, F, A flat, C. If you need to write the names of the pitches above, go ahead and do that. I start at the top because I want close position. A flat, F, as close as they can be, F, C, and then the root tone, always in the bass. By the way, I'm going to put the root tone in this one too. I have, this time, notice I'm changing position. I'm going from a close position to an open position. Now, I don't know if you remember how to do that, but it's these 3 notes. You start here, and instead of writing the closest note, you skip. So the closest note is A flat. I skip it, and I come down to F. The closest note going down is C. I skip it and keep going to A flat. There, that's the easiest way to make an open spacing. The 5 chord, C, E, G, and of course the C will go in the bass. And I can try to find a common tone, which would be C. Notice the common tone's already been written for me in the same voice. So now I just need the other notes, C, E natural, G. So try to find them as close as possible. Here's the E natural. I'm raising that note because I'm in a minor key and I need to raise the 3rd of the 5 chord. And I finish the chord. So I've got 2 C's, a G, and an E with 1 common tone. And then I go back to the 1 chord, F, A flat, C. So here's my F. Here's my common tone. And move the other voices as close as you can. All right, I think I've got you started on this one too, so good luck with the homework.